Hey everybody, this is Scott Smith, and I'm here for another Saturday service. It is July 6th. It is Saturday. I like Saturdays. It's the end of a week and the start of a new one. It's Saturn Day. It's that furthest in the classical planets before that Sunday, the start where the light comes in for us. So it would be very easy for me to, I was thinking about this today, it'd be very easy for me to go immediately to outrage and go to immediately to shock and awe, so to speak. I was looking at another profile that I no longer follow, who that person basically started off their sort of episode, or their streaming with an episode, and went immediately to outrage and crying and screaming, and then blamed the viewers for the nature of the video, because you don't like their stuff unless they're outraged. And I had a lot of recoil to that. But it also really made me think about some of the thoughts and ideas I've been having about subscriptions. Like, what are we subscribed to? And we're subscribed to outrage. We're subscribed to emotionality. And this algorithm, this social media that we have, is built upon that. It's built to make money for other people. None of the content that we create on it, this isn't mine. It goes out, it lives on the internet. While there are rights to what I do about who can use it, right? I'm protected in those things. It's really owned by the social media companies. Like, these companies have ownership over it, and we don't have control over that unless we have our own social media, experiment of those things. That's built on algorithms. Those algorithms feed on the negative, and this is just the science of it. This is the way it works. So in these moments here, what I'm trying to create when I do this is for my clients, is for my students, is for my friends, is for the people I connect with, and hoping to connect to new people, is to create a calmer space. And so a lot of what you're going to get in these is seeing what's out there and reminding you to come back to yourself and to center. So this week, I did not know what the cards really had to say until I experienced it. I think that's true of the tarot. The tarot is a fixed divination system, meaning the cards mean a thing, and also they're full of images that we can interpret in certain ways. This is not our card for the week, just drawing it out for you to see it. That is that Six of Swords. We can use our intuition to see what the images might speak to us, but I always recommend looking to see what the card says, because not only did the artist invest in the meaning, but so did the writer. And in particular, this one by Christopher Hughes and Nadia Turner is really invested with beauty and words. So I really like to look at those, because the tarot cards do suggest a certain thing, and that's important. Our intuition may key us into other things that it means, right? But I'm just saying, fixed divination systems, these have a meaning, and when we get them, we can look at them and be like, it does mean this, right? Like, it may mean it in a certain way, and that's where my intuition comes in. But it's important to look at those things there. So I drew some cards this week because I really wanted to say what's up with the now, and what's up with the message that I want to bring this week for the video, right? This is a hard one, and you may see me stumble on some of this, because here's the thing, and I was talking this in the magic and witchcraft videos, which are different playlists here on YouTube, is that who's the authority on magic? In pagan spaces, who's the authority? Well, we try to avoid that and make it, at least in my tradition, that this is a shared authority space, that we all recognize our own personal sovereignty and our right to discover our own meanings, and no one gets to tell us what to do with our body or our rights and privileges, right? But there's also a problem in that, and where we enshrine ourselves sometimes greater than everyone else or everything. I'm not saying that this is a problem, or that you're doing it or I'm doing it, but it's just something to watch for when we make ourselves sovereign. When we make ourselves the authority on things, we're also liable to the problems we create when we take that to the furthest degree, right? So how do you do a message when everyone's the authority? Well, it's a reminder, right? I'm not here to tell you what to do or say like, ooh, this is coming this week. Like again, watch those who prophesy, about things, like their prophetic dreams, like you have to watch that. You have to watch that because they're only seeing things from their perspective. And they're speaking to you on platforms which need, in order for them to be seen, need this outrage to happen here. So let's look at the week. Let's look at what we have here. I sort of pulled things in threes. I like threes. 3 legs on a cauldron. Holds the whole thing up. We get a really good picture of what spirit or the spirit of the week might be. So I pulled a kind of above, below, between sort of thing. When I pull an above card, this is generally a message, right? These are inspirations. These are visions of things to sort of look out for. They're not necessarily tangible or physical things, but in the case when you pull something like the Five of Pentacles, it's speaking towards tangible things. That Five of Pentacles really has a lot to do with loss, challenges. In the card, there's the 2 folks and they're crying because they have the spilled vessels of honey on the thing. But the author points out wisely the globe behind them, which is there in the card, which contains the wholeness of the bees, that says that there is hope or there's something after it. So it's looking at as an inspiration this week, and this is not a great inspiration, looking at the destructive aspects of things, looking at what's broke, looking at what didn't work, right? And being reminded of the hope, or being reminded of focusing on the whole and not the broke, right? We don't want to bypass it. We don't want to skip over it, right? It's very easy for people to be like, just focus on the positive. And if you haven't seen In and Out to the movie, which we just watched this weekend, and I honestly didn't want to, it really has that strong message, like you can't just focus on the joy. You can't just focus on the positive. That's that toxic positivity, right? So how do we include the hardship in the present with the hope for tomorrow or for the way that we'd like for it to be? So that's a key message, I think, for the week. The lower card here, this was the 10 of Jars, which would be the 10 of Cups. I really love this one. That's a very sort of sweetness with the children in the bee costume and the parental figures behind with the wealth of their honey and the jars and the hives there. This really shows the fullness of that 10 of Cups kind of energy there. But because it's positioned, because it's in a lower position, this can often reference what's in the dark, what's in the subconscious, what's coming up. Generally speaking, when I have people and we're doing energy work, we're doing meditation, and people get the high vibes experience, this will bring things up, because the nature of high vibration things is to slowly acclimate everything else to that high vibration. And when that does, it's the lowest portions that comes up that we sometimes have the strongest reaction to and think, this is not supposed to be happening. I'm supposed to be having a high vibe experience, but I'm having these negative thoughts, or I'm having this memory come up, or what these things. Then I usually tell my clients, this part that comes up is here for that energy. That's the medicine. This is the hard experience, is to hold both of those things. It's an overused term, sometimes I think popularly in Western culture, which loses its original context, but I'm going to say it, which is, this is the lotus in the mud, right? This is that hardship that we're talking about in the higher card. This is going to center around your emotional happiness, or your family, or whoever that is in your knit group, right? Or if this hardship energy isn't coming through in that aspect, it could be referencing, or like the past, or it could be referencing a fear about that, which again speaks to that message card at the top, which says like, remember the hope, remember the whole. Don't skip over what's coming up here, because this could be an important message about what can be mended, right? It could be literal, like this is a situation that's happening, right? And I think because of the position of the card being in the lower, which really speaks to the things that happen in the operating systems behind our conscious self, what it's triggering for us, or what it's referencing for us, and how do we really hold that for ourselves in our feelings, and address those so that they're not running as silent programs in the back of whatever's happening in our life, that we're more aware, right, of whatever our hopes, fears, doubts, or insecurities might be. When we're addressing them more directly, we're working with them. When we're not addressing them, they're working behind the scenes, sort of thing. So what I usually do is I create lists on this, and I have this in Reiki Spirit, my book, the manual that I wrote for my Reiki 1 students. There's a chapter on writing and on feelings, and I really like to look at things as they come up. I like to say, like, this is what happened, regardless of what I feel about it. Like, put everything I feel aside. I know that's sometimes hard, but actually it's kind of easy. You just say, like, these are the facts of the thing, not like, I think they did this, or it felt like to me, or blah, 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 blah. You just say, boom, boom, boom. This is what happened. And then you say, this is how I feel about that. And you write, I feel, and then you write all your feelings about those things. And there's no time limit here, just let yourself write. And then you say, I believe because I feel, and this is what happened. I believe this is what happened. Do I see that in the contents of what physically happened? In the material world, do I see this happen? Where do these feelings, right, fit into what I fear or what I believe might have happened, right? Because you start to break it apart and develop a little nuance, right? Because if you went to the store and you got into an accident, and then you had a bunch of feelings about that and believed that the person who did it was vindictive, right? You don't have evidence that it was vindictive. You have a feeling and a belief that it was, right? And so you start to, like, break apart the components of the experience to really understand it. And then I like to end with, I hope, right? Or I'd like to see, right? Or I amend this with, and you focus on that way forward, right? When you see that message in these Five of Pentacles, when you see this globe right here in the card, which is representing the wholeness of the bees that Christopher is talking about, for me, that has a star reference, because the star represents hope, right? It's like, yeah, this is busted, right? But remember, the goal was this globe. And sometimes things break on the way there, right? Would be a good message for that. So the card in the middle, right, usually represents us as an identity, but more fully than just our thoughts in our head, but our hearts, right? And I pulled the Two of Swords for this one. And this is a great card because it really has a lot to do. You'll notice in this card too that her head is focused upwards in this, and that the flowers are below her, right? So for me, this is the intuitive aspect of the tarot. There's an energy of that what's coming up contains a lot of life energy. It's blooming. The petals are opening towards the light of what we're realizing or what's coming down for us. And she's focused up on that, right? Like, she's holding the sword. She's seeking what's the right balance in this. She's feeling with her nature, the flowers and the swords, right? For the right idea, for the right thought, for the next step forward. Because when we're talking about swords, we're talking about ideology, we're talking about mind, we're talking about what words and thoughts will then become the containers for our life force energy into our next steps that we're going to go forward and do. So this Two of Swords, it's two things. It's consideration, right? It's weighing, it's feeling. It's like a mini justice card, right? It's a little bit of a scales in our hands with our swords. These two ideas. What are our next steps? What's the next way forward? Well, she says, remember that what's coming up is a response to what's happening. How do I hold that? And me considering and weighing this, how I hold it dictates the way the vibration is going to be in the next actions going forward. So you have to be careful of that, right? Like, you have to understand that when we bypass it and we only try to go with joy, like, we're going to get half a vibe. We're gonna get half of an equation, and it's not fully gonna land right with the richness that our soul really wants, because it doesn't contain the loss. It doesn't contain the parts that hurt. It doesn't contain the broken bits, right? When we include that as part of the life force energy that's coming through us, then our ideas about the way forward are more full, because it came up because maybe we didn't consider it. Maybe these broke vessels that we're experiencing right now are there because we didn't see them coming. Remember last week I was like, I like to pull up the bottom of the deck to see what's on the bottom of the deck, because this will take, this is coming out of left field. And it was a hard card, right? It was the swords. We have The Princess of Pentacles in this one, which is a cute little bee on the thistle. I think that's thistle in this card. I didn't read the description on this one. When I see those princess cards, those are pages, right? Pages don't just represent children, right? They can represent our childlike self, but they represent someone who's gone through a thing. They've gone through the wash, they've gone through the process, right? And they know something about something. They don't know it all, right? They're not the king and queen who also don't know it all, but know a lot more, right? But they've learned a thing or two, right? It's with the thing that they've learned in the loss that they're able to shape the next steps that are going to happen with a greater clarity and intention of purpose, because they're including the parts that broke and the hope for the way forward that they'd like to go. So I'd like to see an emphasis on, yes, these are the problems. They're not the end of the world. I don't need to go to outrage with them. They're hard, right? They're difficult to swallow, but I can focus on, even in holding this and even saying, this is incredibly stupid. This is really hard to deal with. This is horror. This is horror. This is still the goal. This is still the part that we're going to go forward towards, because when we're missing either one of those parts, then the moment is incomplete. We're not really here with it, right? So that's my message for this week. How do you hold both of those things? I'm looking at the Two of Swords as a kind of way forward, and I'm looking at that page, that Princess of Pentacles, that says, like, what are the materials at hand that we have now? Actually, I would say even, it's a good one that we might say in regards to this reading and having that Five of Cups at the top of here, about our feelings. When we see this, this is, what can we do with those broken pieces? How can we sculpt or create something else out of them, right? And out of our brokenness, out of the shattering, what are those pieces? Where's our creativity with those pieces, right? That would be a good way to look at the week going forward. Because if it's easy to fall into despair, and it's encouraged, right? It's totally encouraged in this culture of, everything being run by the internet, I guess, so be careful of that. Think about it. This month, I don't have any major classes coming up, although I do have some things listed at starandstonellc.com. That includes, right at the first weekend in August, our harvest ritual at the UU Church at the Verdugo Hills. That last ritual that we did, we had 14 participants. It was amazing, and the energy was intense. Into heart, it had to become compassion. That really made the magic happen for our summer solstice. I also have a series of Reiki classes, no homework, right? But they're things that you can take from my personal practice based on a 6-month training program that I have done for my ongoing. If you take a Reiki 1 with me, you get 6 months of training after Reiki 1 so that you are prepared to work with the Reiki. I've modeled that into a 7-month class, and it will be each month around the new moon. You're going to get a new video with me. We're going to do a live together. We're going to go over the practices. We're going to have Q&A. We're going to workshop some things, and you're going to take away that practice for the month, for the lunar month until the next new moon, so on and so forth. And we're going to work with building a personal Reiki practice, and then we're going to do it again later on next year, which will be building a professional practice. But it's this first one, a personal practice, before we make it into professional. I think that's the most important, because we also skip that in culture, right? Like, we get an attunement and we're like, boom, I'm a practitioner. I took this class, I'm certified, boom, I'm this thing. And we hustle to make it happen sometimes. But the point in all of this that makes that work is the development of a personal practice, because that creates a personal current that fuels those outer expressions that you have for other people. So I'm super excited to bring this class, this Reiki class coming up. It's a great one. Both of those are at starandStoneLLC.com. Let's see, what else do I got? I have an ongoing magical class going on Patreon. We'll be looking at circles and circle components this month, and then in the following months, we're going to be bringing it all together into a spell working, so you can see how all of the components come together. Got a lot on my plate, and a lot more that I'm developing. So blessed be, blessed be, blessed be. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate the comments, likes, and subscribes. Actually, we've had like 11 new subscribers, so thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate people tuning into this message, to subscribing to something that's not outrage, and focusing on hope and the way forward with me being in the present. Goodbye.